Sorry, I was going through the mountains. Um, I'm not sure where we left off, but I was saying that there's a lot of songs for this record, and I think I'll put it this way, not to be overly cryptic because I don't even know what the future holds exactly yet, but there are more songs than can fit in your standard sized album. But I do think that next year is a year of more music coming than I've ever put out in any one year. So thank you for that, Karen. Trish Needs a Holiday, which is a fantastic alias, asks, is there a story behind the album title? And yeah, it actually comes from a poem that I wrote, which I thought was a song at first, and I started to sort of write it in the form of a poem. And yeah, in the end of this, sort of each end of the stanza was the endless search for everything. And I just loved the search for everything because that's really sort of what my career has been. It's what my life has been. It's the way that my mind works, is to sort of consume everything, you know. And so that is very true to the nature of the record, which is sort of like a mixtape of all the music that inspires me and all the styles that I've made before, but sort of in my own certain way of doing it. So thank you. Trish Needs a Holiday. Are we still live? Are we going? We're rocking. Rocking on the live feed. Carrie Freeman asks, how has playing and touring with Dead and Company influenced your sound? Can't wait for the new album. Much love. Much love back to you, and I can't wait either. You know, I think the experience and the ongoing experience with Dead and Company will sort of bear itself more in the way that the live shows go than the records go. I do kind of have my own universe of songwriting that I don't think is going to change all that much, although I do believe that the sort of extended approach to playing music will sort of find its way and has found its way into the music. I think it's when I play live that you're going to see a lot of that ethic come into play, because my experience with Dead and Company is some of the best live experience I've ever had on stage because of the way in which the crowd interacts with the band and vice versa, and the way in which taking the stage is not so much a star-based experience and more a communal thing with the music. And I've never been more free in a lot of ways on stage than with Dead and Company, and I'm going to definitely borrow as much of that feeling as possible and put it into the live shows. So thank you. Denny Burton, John Mayer, my man. Denny, you're my man too. In regards to the songwriting on this album, which of your songs or albums does it feel most like? What similar emotions or drives went into writing? So I feel like on every record up until this one, the record was a result of a love affair or an obsession that I'd sort of thrown myself into with a certain style of music. So I was writing music at the time I was also discovering it. And that's what's so great about growing up in this time, is that the day you come online as a person with their own tastes and interests in music, you've got a lot of catching up to do. And the catching up is really fun. It takes decades to catch up. And so for me, I was always discovering music and using that excitement as a listener and processing it into being a writer. And what's cool about this record is that I didn't do that this time, and it's more its own creation. I think as an artist, you get to a certain point in your career where you're actually, the training wheels come off and you're you. And this is a record that is fully me. I'm borrowing from my own sound, finally. I think that's sort of what describes being an artist who's sort of matured, is you borrow from your own sound. And so that's what's different about this record. Beyond that, I never really set out with a mission statement. It's more like just start writing and listen to what the music tells you to do. And it's very big in scope. The Search for Everything is not the wrong title for a record with this much music and this different style of music from song to song. So thank you, Danny, my man. Micah writes, which one do you enjoy the most, composing, recording, or performing? I enjoy the moment right in between composing and recording where you're in the studio and you woke up and it was just like any other day where you're just a hunter. You wake up, and songwriters know this. 99% of the time, you go home with nothing. And I would proffer that a lot of the talent of being a songwriter lies in the skill of going home with nothing and not being too discouraged and waking up the next day and going out hunting again for a song. And so my favorite part is where you wake up in the morning and it's just like any other morning where you get dressed and you go to work and you try to find a song, and then you do, and something happens and you realize, oh, we're going to be here for a minute. And everything that I'm about to do is about to get frozen in time in a song. And you kind of go into a trance. And that happened with Love on the Weekend for sure, where I was playing a different guitar part for an overdub, and all of a sudden this riff came out, and I went, please press record. And all of a sudden it went into bullet time. That's my favorite thing to do, is to come home that night with something that I didn't know existed before and hear it almost like, I don't know, there's not really a metaphor that's going to directly work for it, but it's like being introduced to a child you didn't know you had and just sitting down and going like, so, you're mine, huh? So, how's life? So, I'm your dad, and so that's my favorite thing to do. And songwriters will understand that, You're like, I'm your mom, or I'm your dad. Thank you. Andy, Panda Kim writes, do you ever listen to a song you made a long time ago and have chills because you feel the nostalgia about a specific instance that may have nothing to do with what the song's about? Can you describe that moment and song? I don't know that there's any one song, but I definitely, every once in a while, will listen back to a record. I mean, it happens very, very rarely. And I listen back to it and I go, oh, there's that guy. And I tend to listen back with a certain amount of compassion for myself, because when you're making a record, you're working through something, and it feels like the only thing that matters, because it is the only thing that matters, because you are in present day when you write that record and you're dealing with whatever comes your way. And to listen back to it with compassion and go, like, as I get older, I listen back and I go, oh, that kid, and I go, all right, you're a good kid, So I would say that, like, the songs on Continuum remind me of a certain love of life while I was living in Los Angeles and riding my bike down Venice Beach and listening to songs that I was working on, and that moment of discovery. It was also a very innocent time. It was very cool. And then I listened to Born and Raised not long ago, which, by the way, I'm very pleased, I'll say that, when I see people put Born and Raised at the top of their favorite albums list of mine, because it means that record got picked up, because I didn't get to tour on it, obviously, and I always felt kind of worried that it would disappear, and it hasn't, because certain people realize that that's a very deep record, and I listened back to it not long ago. I think I had to learn a song off of it, and I just, like, relearn a song off of it, because I didn't really tour with it so much. And I listened back to Born and Raised, and I went, wow, that's, that was a weird time, but I have a record to show for it. And we all go through weird times. We all go through times where you just can't get it together no matter what you do, and there are times where you can't lose no matter what you do. And artists get records out of them, So I get to go back into Born and Raised and go, wow, Whiskey, Whiskey, Whiskey was really honest, So now I could also go back and listen to songs and go, yeah, no, that didn't work. But you don't want to hear me tell you what those are, because they might be your favorite songs, and I'm not in to raining on my own parade. So thank you. Anastasia writes, are you ever unsure about a song when you first write it, such as the lyrics or music or both? Love you. I love you too. All the time. Yeah. But before long, I'm pretty sure what's what. When I wrote Love on the Weekend, I wrote it really fast. And I went, it's like the same thing that happened with Gravity. You go, all right, that's an okay one. That's like a B-lister. And then you wake up the next day and you go, oh, that's something. Let's finish this up today. And each time you sort of move through it and put a lyric in and sing it again, it sort of grows and grows and grows. So I can be wrong about that when I first discover a song, but I'm going to sort of break away from that thinking here and admit that I usually know best. that if a song isn't compelling enough for me to finish it, it's not good enough. And that pisses people off sometimes who are around the studio and around the songwriting process and go like, whatever happened? Finish that song. And I go, I lost it. If I peter out 85% of the way through writing a song, then I am sort of my own focus group for that song, and I realize the song isn't good enough to finish getting written. So it annoys a lot of people, but I'm usually right. I don't think I've ever finished a song under duress and everybody went, we love that one. That's our favorite song. And I went, really? Because I'm sort of listener number one. So if I don't love the song enough to stay inspired before I'm finished writing it, I pretty much know that it's not all the way there. It doesn't mean it's not cool, but if you're only putting out 12 songs every couple of years, everyone's got to be in some way or another sort of it has to sort of state a good reason for itself all the time. So thank you. David writes, how does it feel to know that you have inspired so many people to pick up a guitar? And what advice do you have for guitarists who are trying to take their playing up a notch? It feels great to know that I've inspired some people. I get the most flattered and moved, I would say, when I look at Instagram hashtags. The only searching of myself I do online is Instagram hashtags, because I feel like that's a kinder, gentler internet. And I got to tell you, to see so many people, even just in the thumbnail pictures with guitars in their hands, and they're in their bedroom. And the greatest thing is that there are girls playing guitar. There's as many girls playing guitar now as there are guys playing guitar, at least in the sort of metric of the Instagram hashtag search. And that is so, I can't tell you how happy it makes me. And I think it's just a function of doing your thing for long enough that you just reach another generation. And I'm much more interested in reaching the next generation than I am reaching my peers. It's its own sort of challenge, you know. But to be there for someone when they first, sort of like I said, come online and start to love music and they find you, that's incredible. And the advice I have for guitarists who are trying to take their playing up a notch is obsess yourself. There is no such thing as an unhealthy obsession if it's with your art. It's impossible. It is impossible to be too obsessed if it's with your art. And I do it all the time. I induce my own obsession with something, and you just have to take deep, deep, deep dives, sometimes not even with a guitar in your hand. Sometimes don't even do it with the intent to play that night or to get a 1-to-1 ratio of like that day listen to something, that day play something. To me, getting into the Grateful Dead, which precedes Dead and Company by a few years, that was an obsession. You know, it still is an obsession in a certain regard. Because and so you have to open up a certain part of your brain, obsess yourself, feed yourself. You know, I don't know. Sometimes the advice is like, oh, don't go too far into any one thing. I'm telling you, they're wrong. Go too far. Go too far. Go crazy because of it. And those are the people who make it. Those are the people who absolutely come out the other side as artists. And I still do it. I still try to tap a vein, you know, and find a new, fresh pathway in my brain to obsess myself with something. And I do it all the time. I have little micro obsessions. One day it's just like, this is Eddie Van Halen day. Be like, all I'm doing is looking up 4 Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tour stuff from 90 and 91. And then one day it'll be like all Clapton Journeyman stuff. All I'm interested in is Clapton's tone on the Journeyman tour. And every day it feels as passionate as the next. So that would be my advice. So go crazy, but for your art. Thank you. Terrence Reeves writes, why is your Snapchat handle @JohnTheKangaroo? Good question, and a reasonable question, because it's an unreasonable Snapchat name. I was working in the studio with somebody, I won't name drop, and they had guitar picks that said John the Kangaroo. And I said, why does it say John the Kangaroo? And they said, well, because there's this lyric in, I think it's Manish Boy, that Muddy Waters says, I got a John the Kangaroo. And he says I got a John the Conqueror route, but it sounds like I got a John the Kangaroo. And I thought it was a great misheard lyric, and I thought John the Kangaroo is such a pleasant visual, and I'm also 6'3", so I thought, well, kind of sweet, John the Kangaroo. And also, when you sign up on Snapchat, you don't really get you have to. It's almost like Prodigy was. You have to pick some weird long handle, and I thought John the Kangaroo, no one's taken that. So it's from a misheard Muddy Waters lyric. And the final question comes from Jennifer. Is there a new tour in the works with this new album? Yes. There will be a tour all next year, starting in the spring. And I don't want to give too much away, but I will say everything you wish would happen next year is going to happen next year. If you wrote down what you most wish you could see at a concert, that's going to happen. So I'm very excited. I'm really excited to be back in the sort of scene. I think it's been a while since I've been in the mainstream, and I've been having a real blast discovering some of the other pastures that lie outside of the fence, and I got a lot out of it. I can't wait to play. I started making the master list for what we'd play on tour. There's a lot of songs that come off of Born and Raised in Paradise Valley. I love that you guys have let me follow my passion and follow the arc. The arc of an artist can be frustrating. It can seem like you're being abandoned. And I hope that with this record, it will all make sense, that you have to take trips. You have to stay fresh. You have to evolve. And I'm so excited to be the age I am. We'll put the age on the bottom of the screen. I don't want to. I'm 39 years old. Who cares? And I'm very excited to be at a place in my life where I'm sort of mature and strong enough to support playing music, going out doing what I'm best at, what I love the most, and not sort of blowing in the wind with it, and just coming back, putting out what I think is a really accessible record that has everything that people have liked in the past, and some things that even I went, well, I didn't know I had that in me. And I just can't thank you enough for supporting me wherever I've gone. And I think that you're going to really like this record. It begins with this song, Love on the Weekend, which I have to remind you is one song off of a record, and no one song can do it all. This is a taste of the record. I think it's a very cool vibe. And I can't wait to share it with you, which I'm going to stop talking in about 30 seconds and share it with you. This is a video in the sense that it lives on a YouTube. Your grandma here. And this is not really a video, but it's more a way to get the audio to you via YouTube. And if you like it, take it with you. I think this is a record you can bring with you. I think this is a single you can bring with you. So enjoy it. I think the world of you. You look great. And have a great weekend. Let me know how it works this weekend. Take it with you. Put it in the car. See if it works at night. Focus group it for me. I think it works. I've had so much fun listening to this. I am now sending it off. I have had so much fun dancing to it in my kitchen, and it's yours now. I'll see you very soon. Thanks for watching. This is Love on the Weekend, off the record, The Search for Everything, which comes very soon, I promise. Check it out. Save it.
It's a Friday, we finally made it. I can't believe I get to see your face. You've been working, and I've been waiting to pick you up and take you from this place. Love on the weekend, love on the weekend, like only we can, like only we can. Love on the weekend, love on the weekend. I'm coming up and I'm loving every minute of it. I'll be be the driver. You put your feet up in the getaway car. I'm flying fast like a wanted man. I want you, baby, like you can't understand. Oh, love on the weekend, love on the weekend. We found a message in a bottle we were drinking. Love on the weekend, love on the weekend. I hate your guts 'cause I'm loving every minute of it. It's gonna hurt me. My clothes are dirty and my friends are getting worried. Down there below us, under the clouds, baby, take my hand and pull me down, 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 down. And I'll be dreaming of the next time we can go